Okay, we should be ready to go.
Thank you, Kay. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everyone had a great weekend. Welcome to our council work session. It's Monday, December 14th, and we'll go ahead and kick this off with the Neighborhood Communication Initiative. Scott, did you want to give us a brief opening statement, or is someone else going to do that?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mayor Pro Tem. So there are two topics this morning, both of which have been had a lot of work that's been done in behind the scenes. And the tree plan that you'll hear about folds in nicely with a lot of other initiatives that the city is undertaking, and will show that there's still an awful lot of need out there. So there's going to need to be additional budget discussions over the next several years to figure out how best to maintain our tree canopy and actually improve that. So that'll be one of the topics. The other topic is our neighborhood association request for more information that can be shared on websites and with their membership. And so there's a lot of information clearly at the city that we're working through how best to share that information with those organizations. So those are the two topics for this morning. I really appreciate council getting together on an off-council meeting Monday to share these topics. So I'll pass it back to you, Joe. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Which one of the staff is going to lead it? Is it going to be IT about the neighborhood initiative, communication?
Al will share his screen and then the others will be on. Sorry, Scott, I interrupted you.
Oh, okay. That sounds great. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem, and good morning, Council. Al Setka, the Chief Communications Officer with the City of Des Moines, along with Assistant City Manager Jen Schulte. Can you see my screen?
I cannot see anything yet.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, good morning. Our discussion this morning is on the Neighborhood Communications Initiative. And this goes back to some interest that we heard from several members of you on council. I know specifically Councilman Voss and Councilwoman Bozen brought this to our attention pre-pandemic, and it's something that we've been working on throughout all the other initiatives and issues that we've had in 2020. We know of your interest in improving communications with our neighborhood groups, and what we wanted to know, you to know today that we really share in that commitment, and that's why our goal is to enhance communication efforts to not only the residents but also those neighborhood associations about the city services and the programs and events. And what we did was throughout this year conducted an internal audit and reviewed some of the existing efforts that we have and some of the platforms that we have in communications, both internal and external, and look for those areas of expansion and improvement. And what we'll do here today over the next 12 or 15 minutes is review some of these enhancements that we have come up with, and then Jen and I will be able to answer any questions that you may have. But what we really want to do is begin with some of the objectives that we started with. And first it was respond to those concerns and interests that you as members of the council had about communicating to our residents and neighborhood associations. And you'll see some of that reflected too in the 2020 resident survey that we just reviewed earlier this month, that there is certainly a need that we can improve in communications, external communications from our office and throughout the city in general. I think that is one thing that we have worked on over the last year and a half, to create this culture of content and information, and that we can always, each department can continue to improve when it comes to communicating externally. So what we've done is increase and enhance some touch points, ways that we connect with our residents and neighborhood associations. And that included implementing some new tools, looking at some of the processes that we've worked with in the past, how we can redefine and maybe enhance those, and then also creating a discipline of getting that information out in a more timely fashion. In one of those, this started with creating a toolkit, a neighborhood toolkit for our neighborhood associations. This is a document that we sent to you prior to last Monday's meeting. It is a PDF format that can be sent out to the neighborhood associations, and then they can in turn forward it to the either new residents in their neighborhood or new members of their neighborhood association. So it's targeted to those associations, their members and residents. And really what it is to create an awareness of what it is that we already offer. And I think that's one of the things we found in our audit was that there was a lot of good information out there. We needed to make it, bring it to the awareness of those groups, what in fact is out there through our various platforms and how we can best communicate that to them. And I'm going to walk through this document with you right now.
Excuse me, Al. It looks like Linda has her hand up. Did you want to jump in real quick, Linda?
No, I sent Kay a message. Al just keeps cutting out on my end. All of a sudden the words are gone. Is anybody else having trouble?
I have not.
I haven't either.
Okay.
No.
Let us know, Linda, if it keeps happening. Maybe it's the internet connection.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Okay, thanks.
Sorry, Al. Go ahead.
And I apologize for that, Councilwoman Westergaard. This information has been forwarded to you, and David Durong from our office put this together. And it's a 14-page document. And what we wanted to do was, because of the changes we've seen in the restructuring and reorganization of the Community Development Department, wanted to bring that to the fore for these neighborhood associations. And that's what you see on the right page of this document, introducing them to the Neighborhood Services Department and some of the efforts and services that they provide, from neighborhood development to conservation services, as you see, continuing with neighborhood inspections, housing services, and so forth. We also wanted to put some faces to the names, and with Deputy Director Sue Donovan and of course Director Chris Johansson, who were both very helpful in putting this document together. We also forwarded this document to about a dozen neighborhood associations for their review, and the response we got was favorable for what it is that this document is intended to do. Of course, it's important to see the 53 neighborhood associations that we have scattered across the city. I think Councilman Voss, you at one point had some interest in possibly a website template being created for the neighborhood associations. And what we found is 80% of those groups, 43 out of the 53, have existing either websites or Facebook pages that they use to communicate. We also know that they communicate through, in some cases, through either mailed or digital e-newsletters. So a lot of that information exists out there. They've created those websites on their own, and I think you'll find that each of them are probably as distinctive as some of the neighborhoods that they represent. We looked at some of the analytics. Where do people go when they come and visit our website? These are some of the 6 more popular destinations, dealing with, as you see from left to right, garbage and recycling, information about trash collection, scrub events under garbage and recycling, where that permit and inspection information is available, the information about each of those neighborhood associations, city government, so they can be following information about whether upcoming meetings or contact information for you as council members. The police department is one of the most frequented websites on or pages on our website, typically the non-emergency numbers. And then, of course, always one of the more popular destinations, parks and recreation. So again, not so much new information we're putting out to them, making them aware of the information that already exists to familiarize them with those sites that already do exist. We wanted to bring to their attention too the neighborhood information about Find My Neighborhood, a search function that is on the website, sure all of you have been through it, that when you type in your address, you come up with a specific neighborhood association in which you are located. And that site determines, or actually lists the boundaries and maps of the association, board members of those neighborhood groups, the officials, the officers in the association, if there's a membership rate for that specific association. And then on the right of that, you see the Show Me My House function, which when you type the address in, of course, pulls up your specific, your home, satellite image of your home, and gives you information on when trash collection takes place, who those elected officials are that represent you, information on snow ordinance and routes, and also permitting information and even police information. We wanted to share with the residents and the associations how we try to stay connected with those in the city through the social media platforms that you see listed there, not only Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, but also now Instagram. A brief summary of my DSM mobile. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute with the upgrade that's coming with that, how that app has been popular over the last year and a half. The email notifications we use to keep residents apprised of what is happening throughout the city, and of course then the award-winning website. Councilman Voss, I think this was an area that you thought that we could be beneficial. Is like, how can we help some of the neighborhood groups become better communicators in their own right? So we put together a couple of pages on tips for them on whether it's creating traditional or digital communications, email campaigns, putting together a website if they want to, and other platforms to use in social media, both with Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. So really a kind of a how-to. What we see, I think, in communications on the association side of thing is it tends to be as strong or directed as it is from those officers who are comfortable in those venues. So this again is this 14-page document that we put together outlining some of the contact and for our communications information that we supply to those neighborhood associations. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to try to answer those at this time. Otherwise, I'll continue with some of the other strategic elements that we've implemented.
Anybody have any questions for Al?
I have, it's not a question, but when you communicate with neighbors and give them tips, I don't see, and maybe it'll come later, about the Nextdoor program through the post office, where you can send flyers or mail to your neighborhood at a much reduced price. And you don't have to use labels. It just has to say neighbor, resident, or something, and it'll get delivered for it goes as first class, but it's at a much lower reduced price. Are you familiar with that? Would that be worth including?
You mentioned, it said Nextdoor.
Well, it's through the United States Post Office.
Okay.
It's their Nextdoor program.
We can certainly look into that. You know, the one that's really popular, you mentioned Nextdoor, is the Nextdoor digital program that we see more and more often, that and maybe some of you have either subscribed to it or have seen it. It's really a wonderful tool that we see out there. We push information out on Nextdoor, the digital platform, to get that information, particularly when we're dealing with a very specific program. Let's say there's a major street closure that's going on in a specific neighborhood. We'll not only use Facebook, email out directly to some of those associations, but get that out through Nextdoor as well. And I think that's part of all of this, is how we use some of those social media tools to make sure that things don't fall through the cracks.
Well, in this program, it's called Every Door Direct Mail. And I know when I go to neighborhood meetings, I tell neighborhoods about it, but not very many people are familiar with it. But it is a really good way to get information out to your neighbors.
We will research that, and we'll include that in that section.
Okay, it's Every Door Direct.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Connie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on, well, Linda, you're correct. It's it used to be like 15 cents, I think, on that Every Door Direct, and you can really zero in by block and you hit every household. So it is a good tool if they're still doing it. The other thing is on the websites. I understand that, quite a few have their own website, but there are a lot of people, or some of the neighborhoods that don't know how to get it all set up. It costs money, I think, to keep it. Is there any way that the city would consider hosting some of these and helping them form? I know that, if like every school has their website, it's all listed, and it just is a tool that's through the districts, and this is no different than trying to help some of these people get more digitally organized. I think that's some of the obstacles. Some of the people are great at it. Some of them don't know how to get it going.
So this is Scott. I think it's really important that these, was it 52 neighborhoods, find some resources within their neighborhoods to assist in that respect, because really what it becomes is an opportunity for them to have more of their own neighborhood identity. And that's what the website, having an individual website for each neighborhood, should be about. Otherwise, it's as simple as just pointing them to the city's website that has the relevant information. So I think it's more important in this instance that we teach them to fish, if you will, and show them the resources that are available. And we can even try and reach out to the school district, because I know that a lot of times our high school students are very good at setting up these websites.
That could be a good idea.
I think it's more about setting them up for success and creating their own identities through their own websites.
Councilwoman Bozen, I think we have seen too that a number of neighborhood associations, rather than creating a website, that need can be filled through a specific Facebook page. They're able to communicate it, and it gives them a presence and an identity there that kind of fits that need, or certainly in the interim. But you're right. I think you do see some kind of levels of expertise that run the gamut there, and those who have members who are have some backgrounds in that, you tend to see those be a little more robust and vibrant in the web presence that they have.
Well, that's my concern, is that everybody would be able to have a web presence so that they can reach out to more of the neighbors. And if you've got the other tools, I suppose, but I just think it's difficult for some. So I'm just bringing that up as a concern.
And that's a discussion too that we've had with, it does get to be a bit of a challenge when you start looking at it with capacity on communications and IT. It's not just creation of a template, but then hosting that, troubleshooting, training, but there are ways I think that we can help, and hopefully this toolkit that goes out can be that kind of driver to get them moving in that right direction. So certainly though, something to consider. One of the things though that we have done, and this just in the last.
Excuse me, Al. Carl's had his hand up for a bit. Go ahead, Carl. I think he has a question for you.
Sure, and this is about websites also. I think the challenge for a neighborhood is if they're relying on someone's cousin to operate the website for free or little cost, and then somehow that gets disconnected. If their website is their lifeline and that free or inexpensive resource moves on, then they're stranded without anything. So, I don't think we've landed on the right answer yet, but it's something we need to see how we can help the neighborhoods with that. So,
well, I guess I'll go back to, if there's a cost involved, what does that cost? What would it cost the neighborhood for them to go through us or whatever to provide that template? And then they keep it up. I mean, they have to keep up their own, but I'm just throwing that out as a way there could be a cost that they pay so that we have consistency. That's the biggest thing, is the consistency, is the neighborhood people turn over. I think that's, going back to Carl's point, I think that's a concern.
This is Jen, and I guess I have a legal question for Jeff. Is there any concern with us supporting a website and then them doing something political? I know a lot of the neighborhood associations endorse local option sales tax for the city. Would that be a resource concern on a political level?
Absolutely. We're prohibited by statute from using any city resources at all to advocate for or against the election of any candidate or the passage of any ballot proposition. So if the city even sets up the website, you're going to have a potential violation of that statute. If they try, or else you're going to have the neighborhood in a position where they can't support any candidate for any office, not city council, not state rep or senator or US, et cetera. They can't take any political positions at that point.
And Jeff, you would also have freedom of speech issues, especially if it resides on city.
Well, that becomes right. That becomes another issue, not just freedom of speech, but if the city's the one that's actually supporting on an ongoing basis the website, then you've got not only freedom of speech issues, you've got potential defamation and libel issues if somebody says something and attacks somebody else, and we become what's called the republisher of that information. We can have the same liability as the initial publisher.
So for council, it really is two different questions. Providing some general resources, financial resources to the neighborhoods. That's one question. And the more difficult one, which we don't have a good answer for, is actually doing the work for them. We're better off not doing that as far as the setting up and the maintenance of that. We're better putting them in contact with other resources that can do that aspect of it.
Linda, you have a comment?
I do. I just wanted to comment, and I'm going to go back many, many, many years, but I helped start my neighborhood association 25 years ago. And at that point, when the city was just starting out recognizing neighborhoods, they did host a web page for the neighborhood associations. And it was a template where you just went in and you plugged in the information, and you didn't have a lot of choices about what you could put on there or not put on there. It was not used very well. I mean, we quickly discovered that there were better ways to communicate than through a website that people got, that the city hosted. I don't know if anybody remembers that from years ago, but we did indeed have that where you could just, all the neighborhoods were given the same template to use. I find that most people now, they like to have an app on their phone or on their iPad. And, their kids or grandkids can set up the Facebook app. And so it's so easy to get to. All you have to do is go to that app on the front of your screen and you're there with the information. Of the neighborhoods associations that I'm acquainted with, I don't know that any of them really use the face or use the web pages. Most of their information, their events and everything is on Facebook, on the Nextdoor app. And my neighborhood association still sends out flyers through the Nextdoor program, but I know that not everybody does that, but I don't see them using the web pages. In fact, my neighborhood still has one and they keep it up to date, but it's cumbersome, and I can find what I need by going to Facebook so much easier.
And Councilwoman, I think what you see if those neighborhood associations do have a website, it is sort of the mothership, but that the tool to use to push that timely information out, that topical information, is in fact the Facebook pages or through Instagram or Twitter and some others.
Right, because they get notified right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I can set up to get notifications on Facebook, and it lets me know as soon as something's happening. Our website, we still, I mean, Douglas Acres still has it. They store stuff there. They put, you know, like old minutes and agendas, but I don't think anybody really looks at it. And I think we pay like $300 a year to host that, but it's not used that much.
Al, you want to finish up?
You bet. One of the things that we did was took a page out of our own playbook and what we suggested to neighborhood associations. And we started this last week. You each, I know you were sent this through Constant Contact, was creating a monthly neighborhood e-newsletter that we now push out that again offers that new touch point that again, information that is taking place that is often on the website or is topical in nature with the more news section that you see there. And this will also give us an opportunity if we want to solicit some feedback or comments or input from neighborhood associations or residents. So this just began on the last week or so. We also are updating some sections, the resident neighborhood sections on our website, bring some of that more forward facing. As we did our audit, we found out some of it was you kind of needed to know where to go to navigate into some of that information. So we're doing that, improving some of the search functions and working on creating an interactive neighborhood map. This is something that will be taking place. It's the next generation of MyDSM Mobile. You recall the previous one was almost a reporting tool on your phone. And you'll see that element still exists along that toolbar, that ribbon across the bottom, whether you had a pothole to report or graffiti or something along those lines. We've now added more functions on the face of this. Those are those 9 icons that you see there. So it'll include show me my house, how you can connect to the news section and get information on news releases and media advisories, a calendar component that takes you to our event section of the website where meetings are all listed. Recycling, garbage, and trash collection information. Timely Now takes you to the snow page on the about snow ordinances and snow removal. And you know, from city government to new function with pay online. So this will be coming out, should be available, I would guess, in the next, maybe by the end of January into February. We're in the final stages of that. So that'll be a nice new tool that we provide. And then sort of the final thing is that what we try to do to communicate better to the community is, one of the things is we've enhanced and expanded our video production and getting those stories out, not just to the public, but to the media as well. You'll see an example of some good video production coming up in the next presentation. We've increased and will continue to do so with a social media presence, and it all kind of gets down to, in conclusion here, of getting that culture of about content of it's our responsibility as departments within the city to push that information and make that available to our residents. So that is an update on this initiative. If there's any additional questions, if there are any additional questions, I'll be more than happy to try and answer those.
Al, thank you. Looks like Linda has her hand up. Go ahead, Linda.
I have a question. My last comment is, this is a beautiful presentation. And I know that it costs money to print these, but is there any way we could have some of this presentation printed up and we could hand them out? I mean, this would be a great tool for us as council members to use. And I would love to have some copies if that is at all possible. Are you thinking about putting it into a booklet or?
It really can serve as a couple of functions. It can go out in that digital PDF format, Councilwoman, but again, those can be printed up and distributed, because we know that there's still a lot of folks that like having that document in hand and being able to thumb through it that way and have it, you know, lying around and going through it, you know, time and again. So certainly we can make that available.
Oh, thank you.
Connie, go ahead.
Connie, you're muted.
Sorry, I couldn't say all the good things. I was just thanking Al and everyone and Jen for all the good work. I think this is very necessary for all the neighborhoods to have a better way to organize and really keep all the citizens informed. And I think the new mobile app will be a tremendous help too. So thanks.
You bet. Thank you.
Anybody else? Josh?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is really appreciated. One thing I think we should keep in mind, you know, the neighborhood associations touch a lot of our residents, but they don't touch everyone. And I think these tools and the materials developed, we should think about how we get them out to a wider audience, even in the neighborhood associations. I know we're thinking about it in that context, but I think it has more universal application. And it's important that the full range of our residents are getting this information and know how to connect with city government.
And it certainly will, Councilman Mandelbaum, that this will go out in a release today. We'll have this posted on the website. We'll push it out through our social media platforms as well, so that everyone can see it in you know, not just specific to those neighborhood associations. So yeah, you're on spot with that.
Al, thank you very much. Thanks to you and your team. Good presentation. I would try to send that out electronically to all the neighborhood associations to start with, and then if you have some printed, to get it to us when we start going to some in-person meetings would be beneficial, I think, to all of us. Let's go ahead and continue. I believe the next agenda item is the urban forest umbrella. Is David going to do that, or Jonathan?
Yeah, David Yon, City Forester.
Hi, David.
Good morning. Am I heard at a good level?
You are for me, sir.
Well, good morning, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. It's a delight to be with you today. The cover of our Urban Forest Master Plan is designed to convey three messages to the reader. First, we want the direction of our urban forest program to show that not only are we a great city, but our tree plan will rival any other capital city in America. Second, our cover expresses the three elements that make us who we are and what we do so well. We plant trees, we maintain trees, and we educate our residents about the many benefits of trees. Then the third element of our cover is the second phrase of our title, Connecting the Dots. Every chapter bears the burden of connecting the reader to the importance of trees. Our Urban Forest Master Plan is not an isolated document. It has vital connections to other plans. The creation of our Urban Forest Master Plan complements the strategic planning outcomes of the Des Moines Citizen Task Force on Sustainability to promote a bold, comprehensive climate action and adaptation plan. A letter of support arrived on Friday night that reads as follows. We, the Des Moines Task Force on Sustainability, having reviewed the Urban Forest Master Plan, fully support adoption of this plan as a blueprint for increasing resilience through our urban tree canopy. Star Community's objectives of healthy, resilient, safe places and protection of the natural resource base can be realized in large part through a healthy tree canopy. Plan Des Moines. Trees play an important part in green infrastructure, reduction in the consumption of energy, walkable and bikeable neighborhoods, and connectivity between neighborhoods. The Tomorrow Plan has 16 references to trees and 2 references to treescapes. Trees play a central role in the realization, pardon me. Trees play a central role in the realization of the plan's subtitle, Partnering for a Greener Greater Des Moines. So this is how we connect to other important initiatives now about our program. It would be impossible in our short time together today to review every single chapter. In the interest of time, I will not be covering the chapters listed on this slide, but they are all very important. Every chapter in the plan has concepts, revelations, and recommendations that will serve us well as we plan the future of our urban tree canopy. We are grateful to every single one of the chapter authors for helping us understand our strategic position as urban tree managers. And of course, the entirety of our plan can be found online at dsm.city/forest plan. So now let's explore the contents of the Urban Forest Master Plan. Introduction. This chapter reminds us of what we have, what we want, and how we propose to get what we want. So what do we have? Our 49,000 inventory trees consist of 41,000 street trees, plus 8,000 trees in the mowed areas and people spaces of our parks. 90% of our trees are in fair to very good condition, so we are in a reasonably good position to advance our Urban Forest Master Plan without excessive losses. But relying on this record is unsustainable. We need to act quickly so the urban tree canopy does not deteriorate, which brings us to our second point. What do we want?
Oh,
yes.
Real quick, before you move on from that slide, I just had a quick question. Are these, so this is based, and this took into account, because it says 9/13, oh no, it doesn't, 9/13/2019. So this doesn't take into account the derecho.
Correct. We've had some losses there. It's in the hundreds. It's not in the thousands. So it's a relatively accurate count that you have in front of you.
Do you think so? You think that's accurate in terms of the condition of our tree canopy? Because I guess I think of the view out our front window. There was a tree across the street that was taken down, and then there are two trees in my neighbor's yard that I don't know what an arborist would think of them, but they have, you know, a significant part of that tree. Those trees were damaged. So I guess I'd be curious as the update and the impact of the derecho on this, but we can move on.
I appreciate the comment, and I think you're perfectly accurate in assessing that there would be some changes, which makes it all the more important to offer you an urban forest master plan today. Thank you, Councilman. What we want, first of all, is to plant 3,800 trees annually to meet an Iowa DNR recommendation to grow our tree canopy by 3% over the next 25 years. This would bring our tree canopy to 32% coverage of the entire city. Second, we want to build a cyclical pruning program. We lost our capacity to perform pruning on a 5 to 7 year cycle a couple of decades ago due to budgetary decreases in staff. We must return to cyclical pruning because the trees we take care of today become older and larger, and that doesn't just add to their benefits, it multiplies those benefits exponentially. Third, we need to invest in insect and disease control annually. We can't prevent the current loss of our ash trees to emerald ash borer, but we can avoid losses to diseases like oak wilt and bur oak blight, and we can manage insects like Japanese beetle. And fourth, we need to invest in an education program so our citizens are informed about the need for trees and the benefits trees provide, and so they can support the funding necessary to accomplish the program. I'll leave the third leg of this discussion, how do we get what we want, to the end of the presentation. Stormwater. Approximately 25% of Des Moines' surface area is impervious, and all the roadways, parking lots, and rooftops shed rainwater that needs to be managed. Trees are a real workhorse for stormwater retention. In this graphic, you can see how trees in Capitol Park and Sherman Hill, in blue and orange on the left, absorb between 100,000 to 125,000 gallons of water annually. But the more heavily treed neighborhoods of Beaverdale and Drake are able to each absorb over 500,000 gallons per year. The point made in this chapter is that trees are much more than a landscape amenity. They are a powerful tool in our stormwater management efforts. Climate change. In the graph on the right, you can see that our annual average temperature has risen by about 3 degrees in the last 67 years. And rain, over the last half century, average annual precipitation, most of the Midwest has increased by 5 to 10%. But rainfall during the 4 wettest days of the year has increased about 35%. Such extreme weather events are happening more frequently. In the record books now, as you see in the color graphic bottom left, is the extreme weather event that gave us over 7 inches of rain overnight, June 30, July 1 of 2018. There was much damage and human suffering from flooding and sewer backups. Trees are part of the solution to capturing storm rainwater. The climate chapter is here to explain the why of trees, while other chapters like stormwater and green infrastructure and street trees point to the how. We make the case in our urban forest master plan that trees help to prevent and mitigate the effects of the extreme weather events that are unfolding. Green infrastructure. Impervious surfaces in urban development contribute to an increasing volume of water flowing overland towards centralized wastewater collection systems. Expanding our current gray infrastructure is expensive, so green infrastructure is increasingly being used to complement the gray. We now understand that trees have an important role to play in the development of our green infrastructure. Street trees. Allison Van Pelt from the Metropolitan Planning Organization used local vehicle accident data to inform her when writing this chapter. She makes the case for the safety provided by complete streets. Complete streets provide space not only for vehicles, but also for public transit, cyclists, pedestrians, and trees. Trees lining the street have the psychological effect of reducing speed. They also provide a physical barrier between autos and pedestrians. People will be more inclined to walk their neighborhoods and maybe even walk to work if there are shade-lined streets. And of course, street trees intercept a lot of rainwater before it gets down to the streets and drains. Coming up is our sustainability report card, but we want to show you this 2-minute video before we proceed.
The sounds of a Des Moines morning. The hustle, the bustle, the energy, the diversity, the love. A concrete jungle punctuated with color. Steel beams and shingled roofs complemented by the beauty of our canopy. There's a lot that makes our city special, but it's the trees that have stood the strongest and the longest. They are the balance to the city, adding beauty to our corner of the world. We've taken care of our urban forest with pride, but it must be protected. It must be nurtured. It means to keep our canopy strong and vibrant like our city, we must have a plan. And with a renewed plan for increased care and prevention, we'll keep our trees healthy. But that's just the beginning. At the City of Des Moines, our Division of Forestry has a bold vision to increase planting of new trees. Trees that will provide greater protection from the elements, more outdoor opportunities, and a beauty that's irreplaceable. Our Urban Forest Master Plan is not the path well traveled, and it won't come easily. But we are committed, because we know that the one who plants the tree is not the one who will enjoy its shade.
Welcome back, and many, many thanks to our communications office for producing this great video. Sustainability report card. This page is just a summary of the extensive 6-page report card found online in the Urban Forest Master Plan. We did an internal assessment based on the criteria provided for each category. We graded ourselves good in 19 categories, that's the green column, moderate in 5 categories, with low marks in only 2 categories, but we need to pay attention to those 2. Number 1 is our maintenance program that currently lacks capacity to engage in cyclical pruning of our trees. And number 2 is a funding shortage. In order to plant our target of 3,800 trees annually and hire sufficient crews to engage in a cyclical pruning program and engage in insect and disease management, we will have to significantly increase our budget. Volunteerism and nonprofits. We have entered into a wonderful and very productive new era of tree planting since our 2019 agreement with Trees Forever. They take our usual planting budget and they plant trees. To do this, they have a new program called Growing Futures. They hire high school youth to plant and water trees, and besides receiving a wage, these youth are provided with coaching in life skills such as financial literacy, resume building, conflict resolution, and more. And for big projects, Trees Forever calls out the 200+ adult treekeeper volunteers to help. In both 2019 and 2020, planting efforts netted more trees than the City of Des Moines budget alone could have accounted for. Furthermore, Growing Futures is targeting underserved neighborhoods to be the recipients of new trees. So the city is getting trees planted, but even better, we are part of an equity program that hires youth and seeks to serve in underserved neighborhoods. Remember this program when in a few minutes, I speak to you about environmental equity. Resident survey. In May 2019, a random survey was sent to 1,200 residents of Des Moines as part of the Urban Forest Master Plan initiative, and 430 responses were received. The conclusion reached by the chapter author: the residents of Des Moines love their trees. And when you see on these graphs how so many of our residents think safety, energy savings, air quality, and stormwater management are all tied to trees, we recognize that our residents get it. They intuitively understand the important role that trees play in the life and economy of our city. Environmental equity. One of our most excellent research students at Iowa State University, Hannah Hampton from Des Moines, compared median household income in various neighborhoods against our treekeeper inventory data. She found that there is at least some association between low income in neighborhoods with less tree canopy and higher income neighborhoods having more tree canopy. She further found an association regarding skin color. The whiter the neighborhood, the more tree canopy exists. This information aligns with the findings of the Polk County Housing Trust Fund's redlining study that shows banking investments were denied to people in neighborhoods of color. So I'm going to double back to the new Growing Futures program. Growing Futures is intentionally designed to address environmental inequity in our city. The program is designed to plant, water, and maintain new trees with the added focus of hiring and mentoring youth from underserved or vulnerable populations. Growing Futures has not only exceeded our contractual planting goals, but the staff and students have also begun building rapport with the community and creating public goodwill toward trees. Community residents often talk to and thank the teens while they're out on watering assignments in the summer or planting in the fall. Their tree planting efforts have also focused on neighborhoods in our city that are lower in tree canopy or have been historically under-resourced. Over the course of spring, summer, and fall activities, more than 40 youth were provided meaningful employment and life skills training in 2019. So we say thank you, City Council, for placing your trust in this wonderful program. Residential energy use and trees. The writing of this chapter by a Drake University student is based off original research by Iowa State professors in 2018. A study was made here in the Capitol East neighborhood using our tree keeper inventory of 1,142 trees and the effects those trees had on 340 residential buildings. The study found that there is an appreciable savings on electrical energy from May to September due to the presence of trees. And the point needs to be made that this is one of those neighborhoods that has been underserved with tree planting and tree maintenance. So we need to increase our provision of these services in a timely fashion so residents here can enjoy the savings benefits and stretch their hard-earned income further. Blueprint for Success. This chapter brings the plan full circle.
Excuse me real quick, David. Linda's had her hand up. Go ahead, Linda.
No, Joe, I thought he was, I want to wait till he's finished.
Okay.
What a great
Sorry.
program.
Go ahead, David.
Great. We're on the Blueprint for Success. And this chapter brings the plan full circle by bringing forward every one of the excellent recommendations of our chapter authors and sorting them under our core elements of planting, maintenance, and education. Over the course of 25 chapters, there exist over 200 specific recommendations for the building of our urban tree canopy. But I will focus our attention on the big picture, the final question: how do we get what we want? Please know, we understand that budget has its own cycles, and we are in an unusual period of history due to COVID. So the strategy we are about to unfold is our desired outcome, our aspirational program, and we accept that it may take some time to accomplish our goals. Planting goal number 1, expand tree canopy 3% by 2045. Action. Increase planting budget to $1 million annually. We propose doing this by the city increasing our budget fourfold to $800,000 and inviting our nonprofit Trees Forever to do annual fundraising in the amount of $200,000. Planting goal 2, achieve environmental equity. We invite City Council to continue supporting Growing Futures equity planting, equity hiring, equity life coaching. Maintenance goal 1, a cyclical pruning program. Action. Hire 2 additional prune crews with equipment. The year 1 cost would be $393,000 per crew. The annual cost thereafter, $187,000 per crew, or we would accept the contract equivalent to make that work happen. Maintenance goal 2, disease and insect management. Action. A $50,000 annual budget for insect and disease treatment. Education goal 1, a public awareness program. Action. Hire a forestry educator, $94,000 annually that includes benefits. Education goal 2, collaboratively develop arborist training at DMAC. Action. Engage with our regional, municipal, and private industry partners in a training effort to, we could provide staff expertise, and some of us could be providing $25,000 annual seed funding to make the program happen. Finally, we end our presentation today with some thoughts from the History of Trees chapter. Over the course of 75 pages, the history of trees in Des Moines unfolds from early settlement days through a treeless downtown of the early 1950s and up until the present day, when a resident can adopt and save an ash tree from extinction. And, well, we planned to celebrate 2020 as the year of the tree in Des Moines, but then, as we all know, COVID-19 happened. However, tree history will continue by teaching school children how to plant a tree on Arbor Day, by handing out tiny trees, by educating our residents on the many benefits of trees and training them to be volunteers, and by Des Moines putting our best foot forward to grow and maintain a world-class tree canopy with increased planting, cyclical pruning, and a top-notch tree education program. I remind Council and anyone watching that the summary of the Urban Forest Master Plan, plus all the chapters of the plan, can be found online at dsm.city/forest plan. This concludes the presentation of our Urban Forest Master Plan. We'll be happy to entertain comments and questions from Council.
David, thank you for the presentation. Go ahead, Linda.
Here's my comment. You know, we have just been given two really impressive presentations this morning, and I just want to thank staff who helped put this together, because it's been amazing. The Urban Forest Master Plan, I don't think there's anything we could do for our residents that would have a more positive impact than what the presentations today would do. You know, to get the information out to neighborhoods, but this tree plan, it will be with us 100 years from now, and trees are really important, and I can't imagine that there's anything that would be better for our city than to adopt a forest master plan and then get to work to implement it, because trees are so important. When I drive out to the suburbs and I see these houses where there are no trees, I just think, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what it would be like to live here, where our trees are absolutely fantastic. So I want to do everything I can to plant more trees in the city of Des Moines.
Thanks, Linda. Connie, go ahead.
I'd echo the same thing. I think it was a great presentation. The one thing in some of the areas that, you know, I just look at, a lot of our homes are rental properties in some of the lower income areas. Is there any way to tie for rental certificate that they plant trees? I mean, is there some way, because, you know, the renter isn't necessarily going to do it, but how do we get the owners of the homes to take this, or at least get this information to them? Because many of them don't live in Des Moines. And I do think the trees are one of our selling points of why people live in Des Moines. They are great to have. And so anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. And the other thing too is how, if I wanted to plant a tree, would your forestry, is there I know we can contact, but to give people direction on which kind of tree for their yard, the best suited one, where would they go to get that information?
A quick answer to that, Councilwoman Boson. Yes, on our website, we have our recommended species list. And then in this plan, we go to some lengths to explain how one might do their own site analysis at home, how to make the right tree fit in the right place. Thank you.
Carl, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. David, how far along are we in regards to ash trees in the right of way and in parks, as far as removal of those trees, or deciding which trees we're going to feed?
Yes.
What would be your best guess where we are?
Yeah. we're in year 6 of a 10-year program. Currently, we've got about 5,000 ash trees removed from public property, probably another 2,000 to 3,000 to go. So we'll be wrapping that up in a very timely fashion. I say timely because we're not being overtaken yet by the emerald ash borer like, say, West Des Moines is. The second part of my answer, Mr. Voss, is that we're not certain, but we suspect on the private side that people are not managing repairs in a timely manner. And there may come a time when the city has to be involved in encouraging that, like we had to do with the Dutch elm disease back in the 80s.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? David, thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate all your hard work. Looks like Josh has his hand up. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I just wanted to understand, you know, the recommendation for 3,800 trees, and that's public and private, right?
So we're forecasting that we need 3,800 trees overall, and part of our strategy, Council Mandelbaum, is to not only have our tiny trees program, which gets a start on trees on private property, we'll also invest in a what is typically called a tree distribution program, where we'll take a $90 to $120 tree and sell it to the residents for, say, $30 or $35 to encourage getting more trees on private property. How the number was reached, the DNR's done the math for us. They took into account our normal attrition of 500 to 700 trees each year, and say that instead of planting 500 to 700, which we currently do, we need to plant 5 to 7 times that number at 3,800. That'll make the canopy goal happen.
Yeah, and so you covered my next question, which is how many we're doing about 500 to 700 a year right now.
Correct.
And
Yes, we're budgeted for 535, but here again, the Growing Futures program through Trees Forever and their fundraising efforts, they've managed to put in 733 last year and over 600 this year in spite of COVID protocols slowing them down. So we're doing good in the planting department, but we have to put more budgeting to the cause.
And that those numbers don't include our tiny tree program. How many are in our tiny tree program?
Correct.
In the typical year?
Correct. Yeah, our tiny trees was 5,000 first year, 7,500 second year. We were on course for 10,000 in year 3, and we shut the program down in the spring, not knowing if we could design some safe protocols for COVID.
So those are really high numbers. Do we not think that helps as much as I mean, I know those trees are nowhere near as mature, and so I assume we don't think that all of those trees will make it to maturity, or what do we think will happen long term with that program?
You're correct. We've done numbers out. I think we placed survival of tiny trees at, say, 15%, and the balance will make up with what we call caliper sized trees, the ones that come with a root ball that takes a little more effort to plant.
Okay, so 15%. But still, I mean, if we end up getting 10,000 tiny trees out a year, 15% of that is pretty substantial.
Yes.
And what do you see comparison-wise from tiny tree versus what we do with our partners, you know, the larger tree plantings, in terms of how those strategies work and reliance on? I mean, clearly your recommendation is for for those 3,800 to come from the tree planting and not the tiny tree program, right?
That's basically where we're at with that. And where we'll be more ambitious about our tiny trees is probably investing in the little tree planting machine there. They don't cost a whole lot of money, and go out and plant them by the thousands in our riparian and natural areas, besides what we're able to introduce to people's private properties.
Is that it, Josh?
That's it, Joe.
Awesome. Awesome. David, thanks again. I think this concludes our meeting today. Unless, Scott, you want to add anything?
No, those are, again, great topics for this morning, and we do have both another work session and council meeting next Monday.
Excellent. Well, thanks again to both the presenters. They were very good presentations, and everybody have enjoy the rest of the day, and have a good week. And we'll see everyone else soon. Thank you.